So tonight, we launched this modified committee structure and have asked you all to join us. The hope is that with highly engaged and effective committees of the board that provide feedback on programming that we offer, the board will remain focused on the business of sustaining the organization. As committees of the board, the intent is that there are clear objectives and deliverables for each key program area facilitated by a CCE team member. Agriculture, ag economic development, and 4-H positive youth development. Myron, could you advance, please? There's also 2 additional project advisory committees to support specific grants at this time. You'll hear more about each of those areas tonight. And because it is so important for everyone to understand the bigger picture, we'll also be covering an overview of the extension system so each committee can see how it fits in our shared goals moving forward. So with that, I want to say thank you again, and I'll pass the discussion to Danielle Hodemnamy, who's our state extension specialist for the big picture. Thank you again for sharing your time and your talents with us, and I look forward to meeting you all in person in the future. And please don't hesitate to reach out with questions and comments and concerns and recommendations. And Danielle, I'll pass it on to you.
Great, thanks so much, Monica. I really appreciate it. So Myron, if we could move to the next slide, that'd be great. Thank you. So I just want to cover a quick overview of what Cornell Cooperative Extension is and how we fit into the larger picture of extension and land grants across the United States. So Cornell Cooperative Extension is the extension arm of the land grant university for New York State, which is Cornell University. We're one of the very few private land grant universities. Most are public, but we were founded early on and had several kind of touch points along the way, which I'll get to in a further slide. So we are, as I said, land grant and Ivy League. There are private and then the 4 statutory divisions of Cornell University. That's the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, the College of Human Ecology, the School of Industrial and Labor Relations, and the College of Veterinary Medicine. And the distinction here really is not one that you'll have to spend a lot of time on, but the entire university is the land grant university for New York State. Sometimes there can be a misperception that just because that there is a specialty or faculty member or a program that has a home in one of the private colleges that it doesn't apply to extension. The difference is that those private or the contract or statutory colleges have extension appointments in them. So they have a statutory role for New York State in doing the extension delivery. However, the entire land grant university has a role in making sure that public knowledge is available to the general public of New York State. So next slide. So the foundations. The land grant university system was founded in 1862, kind of at the entrance to the Civil War. Our foundations are actually caught up in the politics around the Civil War, which is a fascinating story, but one I'm not going to get too into. If you're interested, there's some coverage of our foundation in Band of Rivals, so if you want to take a look at that, great book. And so the Morrill Act really was a way at thinking about how the United States was going to transform its economy. We've been a primarily rural and agrarian economy. Even before the Civil War, there was a recognition that we probably were going to be switching to a more industrialized economy, but we had to have a strong agricultural base to do that. It was kind of the beginning of a food revolution as well, too. So a lot going on in our history at that point. Because of this movement with the Morrill Act, every state was asked to form a university that would be a public university, which was a huge innovation at the time. Most universities, all universities were private. They were available only to the very wealthy and to the elites. But that was not going to be sufficient, really, to serve the vision that Congress had in pulling together the land grant university system, which was this really substantive transformation. So for New York State, there was a competitive application process where different teams pulled together resources. They tried to make a case for what sort of outside funding they could bring in, whether there was land available for the college, and how they were going to set up a board of trustees and move forward assisting the college. So Ezra Cornell and his team were successful in making that bid in New York State. It's interesting. It's not unlike a competitive grant proposal that we would see now. And in 1865, Cornell was founded, as it also received the land grant designation from New York State. Now, the land grant is an actual land grant. There is a grant of land that was taken from the Western states, and that was used as capital. Since you can think about, if we were in the midst of the Civil War, there was not a lot of free capital or cash available to really provide for these institutions. So then the Hatch Act actually came after this. So in 1887, there was a foundation of agricultural experiment stations, of a recognition that you would have the land grant university, but you may need actual kind of laboratory space to do some of the real world work of figuring out what's going to work best in each area. New York State actually had several agricultural experiment stations, one in the Hudson Valley and the primary one in Geneva, Cornell Agritech now. In 1890, the second Morrill Act passed, and this was really at the end of Reconstruction, and it required that states not restrict admission to the land-grant university by race or to designate a separate land-grant institution for persons of color. So this was the genesis of many historically Black colleges and universities found primarily across the South and through to the Southern Midwest, and was kind of a forebearer of a lot of the segregation that was to come in education across the U.S. However, I will say, the HBCUs are, have remained very strong. They are our partner institutions and are places that really produce the majority of African American doctors in the U.S. A lot of research that comes out of universities, and we work with HBCUs frequently nationally to kind of meet extension goals. And then the Smith-Lever Act was passed in 1914, and this established the Cooperative Extension Service, which had been pioneered in New York State, primarily out of Broome County. So it's the idea that even if you have a land-grant university, and even if you then have experiment stations, we were not really highly mobile populace at that point. The idea of the county seat being basically where you could travel and go to and from in a day's time, by horseback or, without a motorized vehicle. There was a need to really be able to take the information that and the research that was coming out of these land-grant universities, or maybe being developed at the agricultural experiment stations, and extend them to the people. New York State chose a really interesting model for this, and it goes back to our foundation, because the first ag agent, extension agent, was funded through a collaboration between the Chamber of Commerce, the local Farm Bureau, and local farmers. And there was really not a lot of federal money involved, federal or state money at that point. So going forward, New York State has really chosen to try to, when we reformed as an extension service, we have kind of a three-legged stool of state funding, federal funding, and county funding. There was always a really strong link to the counties in New York State. Okay, next slide. So our foundational document in state law is County Law 224. Again, note that this is in the county law. When the New York State Legislature passed this legislation, they could have really chosen to have a separate standalone law. They could have put it in general municipal law, but instead they put the creation and the authorization for extension services within county law, recognizing that we would be providing services essentially at that county level. So County Law 224 has been revised several times, and from the most recent version, I wanted to pull out these different quotes. So county-based associations, which is what you're joining as a valued volunteer, are classified as subordinate governmental agencies, and they are unincorporated. This is by design in the law itself. So it's not a separate 501c3. We have a governmental function. We receive a lot of our funding directly from different units of government. So there's an extra level of transparency that kind of applies to us. Its extension associations are formed under organization and administration approved by Cornell University. It's a land-grant university and is acting as the agent of the state. So New York State, in setting up this legislation, didn't have our administration or governance fall underneath a state agency. And that could have been a choice, but instead it was firmly founded within academia, which is great because then it also allows us to engage in that kind of that academic freedom that is needed for research and to really try to find some really innovative solutions, I think, to the problems across our over 100 years. So we're known as a county or regional extension service association. Right now, most of our county associations are based at the single county level, but we do have several that are multiple counties. And so that has been something that's been allowable really from the very beginning and is up to kind of local boards to decide whether that's what they want to pursue. And by local boards, I don't mean necessarily the county legislative bodies. I mean, obviously they would have some sort of say in this, but I do, what I mean is the local association boards, board of directors. And so Cornell, as the agent of the state, is hereby authorized to set standards for professional staff and to make rules and regulations for the organization and the conduct of such work. So this is why you see kind of in your role as a volunteer, you will see times at which there are resources or rules or policies that are set by Cornell University, by Cornell Cooperative Extension Administration, and this is our legal foundation for why that happens. So next. So just some summary pieces here. What is an association? It's not a private, independent, nonprofit organization. It's a subordinate governmental agency. So that will show up in some differences in how we go about and do business. However, it's still governed in part by New York State not-for-profit corporation law. There are some things that are kind of an overlap. We do have access to tax-exempt status under the federal 501c3. Section, but of the tax code, but that's not each individual association. That's actually through the blanket tax exemption that exists for Cornell University as an institution. So it's that educational piece. So it's one of the reasons why it's really important that we stay focused within our educational mission, because that connects us to our tax exempt status, something that we certainly enjoy and don't want to have challenged. So because it is an extension association, is a public body as that subordinate governmental agency, we do have to abide by open meetings law, New York State Open Meetings Law, Freedom of Information Act, and New York State General Construction Law, Section 41, which, as exciting as that title is, really just has to do with quorum. So open meetings law, as a committee member, things to keep in mind that you really can't conduct official business by phone or email, although that phone piece is actually different now, and we need to make sure we take that out because we've been in this COVID state of emergency for long enough now. So generally you can't conduct official business by phone or by email. Now you just can't do it by email. You are allowed to conduct business by phone or by teleconference. Teleconference was always kind of an option since the late 90s, but that's, the governor has monthly executive orders that seem to keep being extended that allow for all sorts of public bodies to meet by phone, recognizing that we do not have sufficient broadband or internet access across the entire state for all of these volunteers or elected officials to participate fully in the meetings that they have before them by teleconference. It's just not possible. And meetings must be publicly advertised, must be accessible to the public. And generally, any resident of Madison County should be able to understand what decisions are made, how they are made, and what sort of resources are going into putting that decision into place. Okay, next slide. And I think that's it for my section, and we probably want to run this video.
Yeah, so thank you, Danielle. That one of our goals was to really help lay out the very complicated framework that sometimes exists as part of extension and help folks understand that big picture. So I really appreciate that. And this is a video clip that has been relatively recently done, which sort of reinforces many of the points that Danielle has made.
Cornell University is one of the world's leading research institutions. It's also the land-grant university for New York State. That means Cornell is dedicated to creating knowledge that improves the lives of New Yorkers. A vital way in which Cornell serves New York is through Cornell Cooperative Extension, a network of independent associations located across the state. Cornell Cooperative Extension translates the latest evidence-based findings generated at Cornell into practical knowledge, delivered through research-based programs and services that reach some 2 million New Yorkers each year. These include youth and family programs that fight childhood malnutrition, build parenting skills, and address challenges facing communities such as opioid addiction. Farm programs to spur economic development by developing pest-resistant crops, creating new markets, and promoting local foods through farm-to-school and urban agriculture programs. Support services for military veterans and their families. Small business development programs. Environmental programs to improve water quality and protect shorelines. Community partnerships to revitalize cities across the state. And 4-H, a youth development program that prepares today's young people to be tomorrow's leaders. Cornell Cooperative Extension addresses local needs with its presence in every one of New York's counties, including New York City's 5 boroughs. Extension associations in each county are staffed by experts who live and work in their community and engage directly with residents face-to-face. While Cornell provides general oversight of the state's county extension offices, each of them operates as a subordinate government agency in its respective county, independent of Cornell. So by design, extension associations have the freedom and flexibility to focus on issues that matter most to local residents. Discovery and inquiry are at the heart of Cornell Cooperative Extension. Working with local partners and Cornell researchers, extension experts identify vital community issues and refine their programs to ensure maximum relevance and effectiveness. This way, knowledge and expertise flow in both directions, from Cornell to communities and vice versa. CCE also engages with a robust network of government agencies, community groups, and local volunteers. In other words, we're all in this together. For over 100 years, Cornell Cooperative Extension has been a trusted resource for generations of New Yorkers. Its work is always evolving, but the mission remains constant, helping residents, businesses, and communities thrive.
Thanks so much for playing that. That's a newer piece that was developed, I think, at the end of 2019, early 2020, and it's pretty exciting. We don't always, Cornell Cooperative Extension hasn't always been kind of one of the public faces of Cornell University, but that's really changing. And so this was produced by Cornell University administration, as they really wanted to make sure it was clear that they knew they were connected, that people knew they were connected to cooperative extension. So that's a nice place for us to be, and it's really reflective of the excellent work being done out in the counties. So I am going to offer to answer any questions from this first part right now. Unfortunately, I do need to sign off. Today was the first day of instruction for my 17-year-old and my 13-year-old. And I want to check in and see how their day went, since it was remote for both of them.
Thank you, Danielle. And so just in case it spurs some questions or feedback here, we've noticed that at times the connection between Cornell Extension here in Madison County and Cornell in the big picture has not always been clear. So we wanted to have some time for that and answer any questions. Also, that Extension is in every county across New York, and that Extension by its nature is connected to land-grant universities, which means that while we do this work for New York, that in every state in the US, there are extension services. So this is an opportunity, if you've got any questions for Danielle in terms of those relationships, before we let her go and perhaps be inundated with homework questions, we can, or not. If you have any questions for her before she goes, we'd love to have you offer those up in the chat box.
If you have any that come to mind either during or after the presentation too, just feel free to forward them on to Corinne, and I can, sorry to offer you up there, Corinne.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to respond individually, or I mean, sometimes the questions you have are questions that other people have too. So we develop something that has a little bit broader response.
Thank you, Danielle. We appreciate you being with us.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for the invitation, Corinne and Monica. I really appreciate it. And have a great evening.
Thank you. So you may have noticed in the video clip that they talk about a number of program areas that we work within in terms of extension. And Danielle mentioned as well that as part of our charter, as part of our 501c3 connection, that we have certain areas that we are chartered to work within. And so any of the program that we do here in Madison County, or that a CCE does, for example, in New York City, their programs are going to look very different than what we offer here in Madison County. The programming has to fit or needs to fit into one of these 5 boxes. Not all of those areas are covered in every extension, but that is the framework that we consider, and even how our advisory and project groups are broken out in terms of the program areas that we're chartered to work within. And so again, just a little bit back to that video, you can see then that there's a whole scope of areas of work, and we have identified over the years that there are places in Madison County that extension has worked for a long time, and it seems very natural for us to be in. Farming and food production certainly is a big part of that, but maybe there hasn't been as much work, for example, in financial security and economic vitality outside of the agricultural area. And so as we look at the scope of work and extension and opportunities in Madison County, there's a wide range of things that we're currently doing, and then things that are opportunities for us to move into based on the needs of Madison County. And then a hallmark part of extensions is certainly 4-H, and 4-H has, again, just like extensions in general, 4-H has quite a history and has grown, evolved, changed continually in that process. And we also have noticed over the years that perceptions or knowledge or experiences with 4-H are highly varied. And so we're delighted to have Andy with us tonight. I'll let him introduce himself here in a moment. We're going to turn the screen over to him, so I think I need to make him a co-host here. But that Andy Turner is going to give us some background about 4-H, so that, again, in our goal of having you understand CCE as a whole, in order to help us with CCE Madison County, we want to make sure that everyone here has a current and good, solid understanding of what 4-H youth development is today. So thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Corinne. Can everyone see my screen now? Great. Really appreciate the chance to check in with you all tonight for a few minutes. And I'm very fortunate to be the New York State 4-H program leader, and that means it's almost like a mini version of what Extension Administration at Cornell does for the entire extension system. We have a team of staff at Cornell and College of Human Ecology that I lead to help provide support and guidance and to all of the 4-H staff and volunteers across the state. So I'm just going to give you a little quick reminder of some of the things that we do and hopefully some ideas that you can think about moving forward. One of the things to know, and important things to know, which I think is exciting, is 4-H is a little bit unique in the extension system across the country in that we're a program that you'll find in just about every single county in the United States. So 4-H is a common theme across all the extension systems in every state and pretty much every county. And we've been around for over 100 years and continue to try to respond to changes and needs in our communities and challenges facing America's youth. It's exciting to share with you that a lot of that is happening right now in 4-H across the country. And we're really thinking about our role and setting a vision for 4-H to reach 10 million youth across this nation by 2025 and really reflect all of our diversity and the needs of our young people. And one thing that's emerging from that conversation, and certainly we're all experiencing it right now through the COVID-19 pandemic, is that youth have challenges in terms of where they live. And we don't want your zip code to be the determining factor of how likely it is for a young person to succeed in life, to have economic success and social and health success. And there's a lot of challenges to that right now that are basically come down to where you live and the resources available. So we're really positioning 4-H as a place and a way to help youth achieve those visions and dreams that they have no matter where they live. And that's kind of an emerging theme for 4-H across the country. But just to give you a quick snapshot of the national 4-H program, we reach over 5 million youth across the country, which is still the leading youth development organization in the country. Again, a lot of things happening with our current crisis and COVID-19 pandemic. Some of the other youth organizations have taken really extreme economic hits from this situation and have lost a lot of staff. We have our challenges too in extension right now and funding challenges on the horizon, but it's very positive to know that because of our affiliation with the land grant system and extension system, we've been able to retain our staff in so many places right now. And a lot of really good things are happening to respond to the challenges that youth are facing through this crisis. And New York State is the same. We've had some real tremendous innovation in our local staff and programs, bringing things to youth in new ways, in virtual ways. And we're trying to learn from that together across the state right now. Just sometimes we think of 4-H within the ways we do the program. We call it program delivery. And you may have some of these or all of these in your county, but often the most common ways 4-H is delivered locally are through the 4-H clubs and after school programs. Really the feature there is trained volunteer leaders. And in the case of after school, oftentimes it's paid staff positions, and those often come through grants and contracts. But we're seeing an increase generally across the state in 4-H's role in more formal after school programming. And in recent years, there's been a lot more funding moving there. And as you know, a lot of times youth are in school, at least they were, throughout the day. So thinking about how we bring 4-H to where the young people are is a big part of what we're thinking about here. We do a lot of school-based 4-H enrichment programs. That's one of the largest ways we reach young people. More and more shorter-term programs that we think it's a way to bring youth into the program who may not be able to immediately sign up for a longer-term program or be ready yet to be in a club. It's a good way to get youth engaged. And finally, New York State is one of the leading states in the country for 4-H camping programs. We reach about 10,000 youth, again, in a normal year. Although even our camps are highly innovative this summer and found ways to reach youth virtually as well. But we reach about 10,000 youth a year through our camping program. That's both day camps and overnight camps in New York State. We also have 4 major areas that we focus on at 4-H. And again, this is across the entire country. You'll find this in every state. The science, technology, engineering, and math, we reach about 100,000 youth per year in this state through those programs. A lot of new and innovative growth there. Animal science is what people have known us for, and we still have a lot of strength there. But in addition to our livestock and animal science programs that you're familiar with and our equine programs, we're doing more and more thinking around agriculture as a career and food systems and making sure we have strong programming in 4-H reflective of the things we do in extension across our agriculture programming. So that's an area that's growing, and we see some real opportunities to continue to grow that. Civic engagement, think about that as sort of community involvement. How do we help youth learn how to engage actively, be active citizens, be leaders in their communities? 4-H does this better than any other youth organization. The research is showing that 4-Hers are more likely to become engaged in their communities, more likely to vote, more likely to consider public service. And that's something we want to continue to grow and continue to have that as a pillar of what we do. Healthy living programs include nutrition, being active, combating obesity. We're also doing more to help youth just become and maintain a sense of calm and well-being. We have a great program in 4-H developed in the University of Delaware around meditation and mindfulness, and we've used that a lot now in New York State, and very popular with youth, bringing some self-development skills that they can use to maintain health and well-being, especially during a lot of the anxiety and tension we're all dealing with right now. So 4-H, like the other parts of Extension, as Danielle mentioned, we're an evidence research-based program, and sometimes we forget that in 4-H. So whether we're talking about a camp program, a school program, a 4-H club, this is the core of what 4-H is on this slide. And we have our own research base in positive youth development that we're trying to bring into the program across the state, working with our educators to help them apply this. So these are kind of the core foundational elements we want to see across 4-H, a place where youth can really explore and develop passions. We call them sparks. And it's the sparks that lead them through the positive youth development process. Another core is a sense of belonging, giving youth a place where they feel they can be themselves and can connect with other youth in a way that's empowering and helps them grow. The developmental relationships between youth and adults is an incredibly important part of 4-H. Not just supporting them, but also challenging them and helping them to grow in a positive way. And then whatever way we're engaging with youth, we want to keep them involved as long as we can. The research again here shows that the longer the period of time youth are involved in 4-H, the more benefits they receive from the program. So those are kind of really core pieces we're trying to bring across all of our 4-H programming. Kind of connecting this to what we all know about 4-H, the 4-H's themselves. You can think of the head, sort of that academic part, helping youth develop skills that can lead to careers. The heart is where we think about community service and engagement. Hands, we want them to be active. We want them to have skills. We want them to be able to be employable. And health, happiness, and well-being. So the 4-H's really relate well to our developmental theory for 4-H, and it's a good way to keep it in front of us as we think about the outcomes we're trying to achieve ultimately with the program. And as we head into these really difficult fiscal times, we want to help you communicate this to your local decision makers. 4-H is more than just a program for youth. It's a way that they can grow and succeed, and we have evidence that backs that up. So I just threw a few questions in here to help you think about, and I say this with great empathy for the challenges all the county staff are facing right now and all the stress that's already on our staff and volunteers. And so these are just ideas, and I know you have a lot on your plates, but I think if I was to narrow it down to 4 things, it would be, as you think about program development and opportunities in Madison County, who are you currently reaching with your program? What parts of the county maybe are you not reaching? Are there some opportunities and unmet needs that 4-H could provide? And then, of course, more and more program development is about finding partners and collaborators. Are there agencies and school districts you can work with that you're not currently, and funding opportunities that might lead us in new directions? And then the other thing that's really important in 4-H that we really want to emphasize with you is we want to have youth voice. We want to create opportunities for young people who are receiving the program or thinking about the program to help us in designing it and directing their own program. having a voice. That's how you develop those other leadership skills that we talk about in 4-H. So, you know, we're here to help you at the State 4-H office. It's almost like we're your consulting group for your 4-H youth development program. And we have a really diverse and wonderful team at my office. And most of the folks here, at least 9 of the folks on this page, have either worked in county 4-H programming or they currently still do. We have a model where we bring some staff from counties to our team and allow them to spend some time working on state level programs and projects. So we're here to help you. We help you with your staff training and development, volunteer management. We run a lot of the state level 4-H programs and events that your staff and youth really enjoy, like our career explorations program at Cornell and the state fair. All these things we're hoping to return again next year with any luck. It's been a challenging year for all of us in youth programming, so we've had to completely relearn how we do our jobs. But I'm happy to report that our staff are doing that and doing that incredibly well. So it's been an exciting year that we'll never forget. So that's a quick, Corinne, quick overview of 4-H. We have a strong track record and history to build on, but we're also really encouraging our staff and volunteers to think about new ways we can work and new partnerships, because everything is changing incredibly out there and we want to be responsive to that.
Yeah.
Make sure 4-H has the same kind of success in the 21st century that it had in the 20th century. So I'm happy to answer questions anytime down the road and look forward to continue to engage with your staff there in Madison County. So thanks, Corinne.
Thank you so much, Andy. And if you can just hold on, I don't know how quickly you have to scooch out, but I'd like to just ask folks, so if you're not familiar with Zoom, there is a chat option. So on the bottom of your bar, there's an opportunity for you to type in any questions or comments. And I'm just wondering if anyone is comfortable doing so as you listen to Andy, and even hearkening back to the things that Danielle said. I'm wondering what you're hearing that's new or different from Andy and Danielle, things you maybe hadn't thought about in terms of resources or programs or connections that we have to campus and to campus resources through the state programs like 4-H. Excuse me, I had to sneeze there. It's not COVID, it's allergies. I have to say that, but does anyone have any things that as you listen to 4-H, I often think about, and this will age me, it's not your father's Oldsmobile. So I don't know who here is old enough to remember that kind of commercial. But the thing I always think about when Andy talks about 4-H, and it's one of the things, and thank you to those of you that did the pre-survey, that often there's an impression that 4-H is all about a club model. And for us, things like Ag in the Classroom or Cornell in the Classroom, after school programming, the independents that push in for a particular program but don't join a club, there's a whole spectrum of things that 4-H does now that are opportunities for our county that we can really build a lot more of. And Andy, I don't think you said it here. I know you said it about 2 years ago. We did something like this in live, so kind of as a kickoff. There was some statistic that you offered about the number of what the trend was for students involved in clubs versus students that were independent. So they picked and they came in for a program or programs, but they weren't attached to a club. Anything you can say about that?
Sure. I mean, the general trends, and they're not just New York, they're pretty much across the country. And we are one of the larger 4-H programs in the country still in New York State. We're in the top 10 as far as total youth involved in our program, which I think sometimes people don't realize. So New York is a big, diverse program, and we have the 4-H community clubs and strong animal-based programming, but we also have 4-H in New York City and Buffalo and Rochester, very, very strong in some urban parts of the state as well, doing incredible STEM and civic engagement work. But the thing we're really trying to help everyone think about is the delivery method is not as important as the why. What is it we're trying to accomplish? And what we're trying to accomplish is that positive youth development, creating those spaces where youth have those interactions with each other that lead them down a growth path, have those positive role model adults. And that can happen in any of those different ways that I described. We want to be more clever about, we try to get youth involved and then we figure out ways to keep them involved. So we haven't always tracked that so well. In other words, we have really great information on youth who are in 4-H community clubs and are more long-term members that we think of in that way. But we might have youth who are going to 4-H camps or in an after-school program, doing a tractor safety program or on other number of ways, and we may not be tracking that as well. So it's harder to create the impact there. But the general statistics are clubs are about 20,000 of our total 170,000 youth per year in New York State. The other areas are that remaining 150,000. So that's been the trend for 10, 15 years, that we're holding steady with the community clubs, but the growth is happening in school-based programming, after-school programming, those kinds of newer models. It doesn't mean the club's going away, not at all. It just means we need to be adaptable to the ways youth and families can participate. And it's different than it was 10 or 20 years ago.
Great, thank you, Andy. And a note here again about the purpose of tonight. As you listen to things, like you listen to Andy, and then we'll have Nicole Tamel, who's going to talk next about regional teams. If you are not on the 4-H Youth Development Committee, but you're hearing something from Andy that makes you think, wow, I could completely see myself doing something, or I have a friend who I think would really be a great volunteer to run what I would call a one and done program, right? So they're not a club, but they're pushing in to do a program. These are things that we're always looking to explore. Boy, our youth need things, you know, they need this positive youth development. They need these opportunities. And so, you know, we really want to make sure we share that. We did have one comment, Andy, here in the chat from someone who said how much they really appreciated hearing how much more there is now, that instead of a 4-H club just being about blank, that there are so many more opportunities to explore individual things and also a wider variety of things. So Andy, thank you so much for providing your insight. And I also thought that the list that you provided of some questions is the kinds of things that, for those of you on advisory committees, can be thinking about. These are the kinds of things that we really need you for in that local, thinking about the local impact. So Andy, thank you so much for that.
My pleasure. Thank you all very much for all your work and volunteer efforts. We appreciate it very much up here at Cornell as well. So thank you all.
Great, thank you. Okay, so next up we have Nicole Tamel. She's going to talk about our regional team partnerships. So again, in this theme of, before we drill down to the Madison County piece, helping you understand the big picture of Cornell Cooperative Extension. So Nicole, we're going to turn it over to you.
Well, thanks, Corinne. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Tamel, and thanks for having me on tonight. If you hear some cows bellowing in the background, I'm in the farm office tonight. We've been having some internet stability issues in the house where my normal office is, so I came down to the farm, and of course, somebody came in the barn, and now cows are bawling in the background. So just to get started off, I work for the Central New York Dairy, Livestock, and Field Crops team. I am the team lead. I took over that position as of July 1st. Our previous team leader, Kevin Gano, some may know that name. Kevin retired in July, so I took over that position. And basically, that regional partnership that we have with Madison County is an 8-county regional partnership. Madison County basically buys into the team, and with that comes the services of 4 different people with specialties in areas that are very agricultural driven. This partnership is not unique to this region. There are 12 different regional teams throughout the state of New York. Some of them overlap. There are actually 6 teams that are structured very similar to ours. We have a northern team, a northwestern team, a south central team, a southwestern team, and an eastern team. And there's about 70 specialists. Actually, there's probably over 70 specialists total within the actual 12 teams that we have throughout New York State. We do provide a lot of service to folks. Dave Balbian, the gentleman in the middle, he's our area dairy specialist. He does a lot with nutrition and facilities, transitions. He goes in and he works with folks on a series of different things, and he's just currently wrapping up a project in Madison County. Ashley McFarland, she's our area livestock specialist. Ashley does things from hogs to small ruminant sheep and goats, as well as beef cattle. She's into husbandry, marketing, sales. She does a lot of introductory courses. She's got a tremendous amount of courses coming on this fall for Livestock 101. We also have Eric Smith. Eric is our newest addition. He is our area field crop specialist. Eric, he's got a really super unique background, and I hope that you guys can all get out and meet him, because he's a wealth of information. He has a PhD from Cornell University. He's basically entomology. But he also does a tremendous amount with weed identification, and he is going to be out and about. His start was August 1st, so he is getting his feet wet. Give him a call. I know that Corinne and I have talked about getting him out in the field, working on some different programs with us, so we're super excited to have him. He's also looking at doing some emerging crops and some specialty crops, so we've kind of got a different, way that we're going with our field crops. Traditionally, Kevin did a lot of very traditional corn, soybeans, field crops, different types of hay, but now Eric is kind of broadening out and doing some different things, so that's super exciting for our team. And then myself, as the farm business management specialist, I kind of work in finance and succession planning. I back up Dave and Ashley, and we work on risk management programs. Eric and I are going to be doing some risk management programs. So the expertise of the folks in and around the region are at your fingertips. We're here to help you. It is something that we enjoy doing, getting out in the field. Unfortunately, with COVID, we haven't been able to get out in the field as much as we'd like to. But we are starting to dip our toes in the water and get back on farms. Myron, do you have a next slide for me, please? So a little bit about our team mission is the mission of the extension team is to provide high quality educational programs that address the needs of dairy, livestock, and field crops producers in Shenango, Fulton, Herkimer, Madison, Montgomery, Otsego, Saratoga, and Schoharie counties. Those are the counties in which we work. But we get around, we do enjoy getting out to the field. And with COVID, even though we're not having in-county meetings. We are doing a tremendous amount of Zoom meetings. And today I did send Corinne and Tess over an outline of our courses Zoom meetings that we'll be doing this fall. We have I think two and a half pages worth of things that are being offered this fall. So we'll make sure that we get those out to you. So a little bit about our team and how we work, because you say, well, that's great, Nicole, but how does Madison County really, how do we get the producer in Madison County our needs met? So we have a team structure, and that team structure, Danielle spoke about it, Andy just talked about it with 4-H, but really our team structure is Madison County has a touch and a seat at the table when it comes to what our group, the four of us that are on the regional team, is the direction of their program. Monica is on that as the advisory board. So if you look over on the far side of your screen, it says local associations. Corinne has a seat at the table for our administrative management group, which is all of the executive directors in our region. They come together a few times a year. The team is there as well. Also the regional ag programs coordinator, Peter Landry, who is our boss out at Cornell, and Chris Watkins, who is our director. He isn't there, but he really oversees the entire team structure. They are there at the table, basically voicing the needs of the association and the needs of the producers. We also get direction from our advisory committee. That's the one that Monica is on currently. We have 2 to 3 folks from every county. We like to limit it to 2. From every single county, they have a seat at the table. We have, this year obviously was a little bit different this summer, but in the winter time, we come in, we sit down, we have a couple-hour meeting, and we just hash out different ideas of what folks are looking for in the community, bring different and new and exciting programs to the table. From our meeting in August, Monica talked about milk check and some price differentials and how folks can work with that with dairy producers. So what we are doing is, from that meeting, we are actually having a meeting on October 14th for dairy producers to talk about their milk checks. So those meetings are super important because they do drive what we do as a team. And we, like I said, Madison County has a seat at the table to help drive our programming. And we find that very, very helpful. Getting out in the field, talking to producers, talking to Corinne, talking to Tess and Myron and everybody at the office, as well as folks on the board. Those things are super important to us and are really helpful in our programming. So I would just like to say, I know it was just quick 3 to 5 minutes, but I would like to say if anybody ever has any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. If you don't know how to get a hold of me, Corinne does, and anybody at the office, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about what we do as a team, what we can do to provide service for you, and help you achieve your goals in livestock or dairy production. And if we can't answer it, we can always bring in folks to help you. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for having me. Do I have any questions?
So Danielle, thank you so much for that. And I know that you will spend some time too with the Ag Specific Committee. And this is a great launch to that conversation, but also helping people understand when we refer to, we are partners with the regional team, having them understand what that means. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, Corinne.
So moving to our local team, we wanted to just put a list up. We won't go through, but many of you have already interacted with one or more of us. There are really 10 of us in the local office that are there to answer your questions, facilitate those connections, move things forward. And we are just delighted with the team that we have, lots of synergy, and I very much believe in a cross-team approach and working groups. So this is our stellar and really just remarkable team that's been rocking it out, and looking forward to you getting to meet all of them a little bit more. You'll hear from a few of them here in some later slides. Our key programs and projects here locally, so we have the big picture, and then locally, just wanted to highlight a couple of them overall, and then each of the educators that are leads on the teams will talk about some of their key programs. And as I was going through your survey responses, and again, thank you so much to those of you that took time to respond to that. A number of these came through: the Cornell in the Classroom, the school break and the after school programming, the thinking outside of the bucket was mentioned a couple times in terms of 4-H. Certainly we heard a lot about the programs that we've been doing during COVID for our rapid response programs that we'll talk a little bit as well. You know, but between agriculture and ag economic development, and then when you wrap in the regional team, we cover a lot of ground with a lot of both generalists who can help with the general questions, and then the levels of expertise and pulling in to research-based projects that we get with the regional team and campus. And then sometimes we find that some of the community outreach programs that we do that may not always be thought of within a cooperative extension, but are part of it. Our tax credit for the elderly program is just a really remarkable program that has a tremendous benefit to our seniors. We've recently engaged in a new grant program, a NYSERDA energy program. A number of you said you read the Cornell and the community columns, although an awful lot of people said they don't read the newspaper anymore. So there's that piece too. And then of course we have ongoing relationships with the SNAP regional team as well. And then, you know, people mentioned Open Farm Days or Celebrate Madison, and knowing our newsletter. So we have a number of key programs and projects that really I think we are known for and are becoming known for some of the newer pieces. We thought it might be helpful just to, you know, if people say, well, what in the world does Cornell Extension do? You know, for you to have a few talking points and also big picture. So our programming cycle runs from October to September. And if you look at our 2019 numbers, we don't have our numbers tallied yet for this year. Just to give you a scope, last year we, in Madison County, had 490 events, programs, and visits that constituted 1,261 hours of our work, reached 12,700 individuals directly, and had an impact reach over 1 million. So we're really proud of those statistics when you think about the work that we do and the different ways that it impacts our community. We are busy and very active and are very passionate about our work. And last year at the annual meeting, I put up a slide that someone had passed along, and a number of us extension educators got really excited about it. So Myron can move the slide forward. This was something that a colleague at Washington State University had put out, that something that her husband said about, you know, really you are, and we hear this, you're the best kept secret, you know, that you have both the book smarts to books, the street and book smarts. And in a zombie apocalypse, you'd want an extension person in your clan. So it was funny, last year we sort of came up a couple of associations with this kind of little, you'd want us during a zombie apocalypse. So we didn't know COVID was coming, and COVID really isn't a zombie apocalypse, but you know, it was pretty much there. So we thought we'd give you just a snapshot of our really rapid response and how we really pulled it together with a lot of really fierce collaboration. I mean, we could not, you know, the work that we do, we so strongly believe in relationships, capacity building, working with our partners. And so just I'll email you each a fact sheet, but just if you kind of scan down through the programs that we did and the numbers and the dollars that it impacted our county just during COVID-19. And that is the true testament of the CCE system, that it's not about one association trying to figure out what to do. It's about an association with collaborations and partners, and also cross-county opportunities where we're learning from others, regional teams and program work teams that put these things together and just knock it out of the box. Myron, you can move forward to the other ones. So a wide variety of programming. The TCE program, the tax program for the elderly, we were, as far as I know, the TCE program we just happen to have that grant through extension. It runs in a lot of other places, but boy, the person who leads that program was so committed. She said, Corinne, we have got to find a way to do this as a no contact drop off so those seniors can still get their taxes done. And by gosh, we did it. We kept that program going, and you know, the impact to our seniors is really quite incredible. And then things like launching a curbside at Cornell and thinking about a flashback to the Victory Gardens of old with helping people learn how to plant, and so many grants and contributions that really helped these things. So it wasn't the zombie apocalypse, but I do think that we did a really good job in that, you know, from helping people plant to harvest to produce to market to sell. There's just so many opportunities that come with Cornell. And we thought this little video, does a nice job too, kind of highlighting Extension's response with resiliency. So we'll go ahead and play that. So stronger than ever is definitely the message. And again, the power of the CCE system to help in all kinds of ways and all kinds of resilience. And this is why we need you. This is what is so important about the committee structure, our advisory systems that help us move forward. So Byron, if you can advance to that next slide. So we're gonna go through now and have each of the project leads do a very quick sort of 2-minute overview so everyone can walk away with the sense of what are the advisory committees that are happening and have a sense of the crossover work. There are a set of common responsibilities across committees that we won't review because they're they're basically the essential support components of the committees. And we also wanted to highlight that these are annual appointments by the board president. So your commitment to us right now is for a year. We hope that when the year is up, if that you're interested in continuing on with us with another appointment, but we also recognize that not everyone can commit more than 1 year. So we also want to assure you that these are annual appointments that come each year from our board president and also are tailored to the needs that we see in each of our programs.
Hi everybody, it's Tess. I will try and be super quick. I am the ag educator at Madison County Extension, so I'm just gonna give a quick rundown for those of you on the Agriculture Program Advisory Committee. So we are really just, hang on just 1 second, I'm so sorry. I apologize, I'm at home and I have a 10-year-old, so of course this is the one time that he needed to talk. So I apologize. I am just looking for guidance and insight into key ag programming needs throughout the county. I'm looking for assistance in promoting programming and outreach activities, assistance in identifying speakers for key topics, and those sorts of things. Some of the key and hallmark programs and projects that I have going on are Women in Agriculture and Annie's Project, some pasture walks that I'm looking forward to doing as soon as I can get people outside and walking around on different farms. Those that I'm looking forward to working on are dairy and livestock tours, crops, fruit and veg production, and equine. I certainly enjoy going out and doing my TikToks with Tess. This year we were trying to work on a program called RISE, which was Retirees in Service to the Environment. So we were pulling in some of those forestry, natural resource, woodlot management type of programs there. Horticulture, and also I'll be asking for a few things from those on the committee for the Food for Thought grant, even though I do have a separate advisory committee for that grant. I'll be looking for reviews and feedback and input into seasonal programming schedules, and then also looking for help in recruiting participants for those programs. I also help and work with Nicole and coordinate with the regional team to identify and provide the robust programming in the specialty areas. So I'm working with Nicole a lot to make sure that the things that we need in Madison County that they can provide are coming in. And for this advisory committee, I'm looking to meet quarterly and have about 12 to 15 members.
Hello, everyone. This is Myron. I apologize that every time I try to change anything, that little box comes up on the top of the screen. I can't figure out anything to do about it. So I am the Ag Economic Development and Marketing Specialist with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Madison County. And I have been with the organization just under a year, about 11 months right now. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the program advisory board that we have in Ag Economic Development. This board is really focused on a few projects, but will advise on a lot of stuff. So one of the things is participating in collaborative discussion, collect and review data to discern the state of agriculture economy in Madison County and identify opportunities. And then what we're hoping will be the culmination of this year's worth of work with the next year's worth of work with the committee is a State of Madison County agricultural report. And what we're really looking to accomplish with this is a few things. The first is getting a better picture of exactly what Madison County agriculture encompasses, what the economic impact of agriculture is in Madison County, but also helping to broaden the minds of citizens or of our constituents and our legislative friends and partners in the idea that the economic development of Madison County goes beyond just the farm that you drive by. It includes processing plants. It includes lots of other things. So really helping to have a written report that we would do once a year. Assist in identifying and drawing collaborators and stakeholders for key topics, programs, and projects. So one of the ways that I am somewhat unique in our office is that instead of speaking myself at most of the stuff that I put on, I would invite, say, Nicole to come in to speak from the regional team, or an expert from Cornell, or another community member to talk about key topics, say business generation and advancement. And then some of the key projects and programs that we have, we're going to hear a little bit about the Agricultural Business and Entrepreneurship Center later. But once their project is done, which will be the next 10 to 12 months, we will be rolling that into the Ag Economic Development Committee. Curbside at Cornell was really a marketing program. When we started it, it was marketing a connection between consumers and farmers. But we have some great ideas to expand that program to more of a true curbside model that we'll be working with the committee on. We're partnering with Madison County Rural Health on a Madison County Food Insecurity Assessment, and we will be writing a grant to the USDA this fall based on some research that we had out of an outstanding intern that we had over the summer, Rachel Lyons. Grant writing for CCE programs, so helping with funding for all of the programs that we have within CCE, agricultural business guidance, loans, grants, and partnerships with other agencies. We highlighted that during COVID, we worked with the USDA Farm Service Agency on the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program. So with our assistance, they were originally hoping for 140 farms to apply. They are now up over 170 in the first round. This really will lead to hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in economic advancement for our farmers because we really pushed it. We really went out, we spoke with them, we talked with them, we continue to remind them that they needed to put that in. We will be looking to do an agriculture appreciation breakfast that we would invite local legislators and community leaders to. That actually was supposed to happen the first time this summer. And of course, with COVID, we've put it off till next year. An ag pitch competition. The idea there is we would work with SCORE and the Small Business Development Center out of Syracuse to allow farmers to submit project plans and business plans that they have either for expansion of their current business or moving into new businesses. And then at the end of that competition, a certain number of the business plans would be selected, and then we would have a winner that would receive a cash prize along with a second place cash and third place cash prize. We're really trying to work with farmers market managers. The way that it's set up right now, usually farmers market managers kind of work in their own bubble in their community, and we want to provide an opportunity for them to share best practices and things like that. And then one of the huge roles of this position is farmland preservation. Thank you for a few minutes of your time, and I will pass it off to 4-H.
Thank you, Myron. My name is Craig Brown, and I'm the 4-H Youth Resource Educator, and I'm here with Courtney Lavecchi, who is our 4-H Animal Science Specialist. And I'm not going to lie, I was looking at the list of names, and I have to say it's amazing how many people we've already connected with, and it's actually inspiring looking at this list of people. These are a lot of you are the people that I look up to in your areas and your fields. So it's actually really humbling to have you now sitting with us today. I just wanted to, start by saying that I also have 2 children. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and we put in stairs yesterday. I'm not a bad parent. There's a railing, but they're going up and down it. So if you hear bum, 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 that is my children. And my 3 dogs. I don't know why I have 3 dogs, but I do love my dogs. So I wanted to provide a really quick overview of our advisory committee, and I'm going to split that with Courtney. But really what I want you guys here for is your input, the discussions we're going to have, your feedback. and then to play an active role in the programs we're doing. Some of you were on our last advisory committee, and I think one of the things that a lot of people felt like was it was a lot of, you know, talking, but not a lot of action on the part of the advisory committee. So our goal this year is to really engage you, especially if we have your time, we want to make the most of your time. So if you don't know, a lot of our key programs, we do Cornell in the Classroom, which is based on agriculture in the classroom curricula. We do, which actually something kind of cool, each lesson that we do with that program serves 600 Madison County youth. And we're in 12 of 13 eligible school districts right now. We do suicide prevention, tractor safety, after school programming in 2 hopefully retained schools this year. Health and mental wellness, collaborations with SNAP, and there's a SNAP shout out to Whitney, who's also on here with us. And of course, state fairs, our capital days, and so many other programs. We're very active in that sense. So we don't expect you to have to volunteer at all of these events. That's not our goal, again. But what we're hoping with is that we can use your expertise in certain areas. So when I look at my screen right now, I see Sean Bozzard. Sorry, Sean, I'm calling you out. So when I think of Sean, I think of that a wonderful connection he has with the Farm Bureau, his connection with Morrisville, and I think of his awesome volunteering with us with tractor safety. So his participation in our tractor safety program would meet that active role, and it's so helpful for us to get his feedback in all kinds of these other areas. So I'm not looking for anything too crazy. We're really just hoping for you to connect. You can help by judging our youth projects, our public presentations, organizing our banquet, connecting us to schools, your colleges. I know we have a brand new person on our advisory committee that I'd like to welcome, Dacia, maybe connecting us again more with Morrisville. But yeah, it's just really, it's a partnership for us to try to advance what our offerings are to the community. And we're incredibly, incredibly thankful to have you here. So one thing, I did do a list really quick of 4 of you. So Sean Bozzard, I'm expecting you this year for 50 hours. Eric Haas, 150 hours. Whitney, 200 hours. And Dave Jones, if I don't get 6 hours out of you, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So just keep that in mind. So here's Courtney.
All right. Yeah, going off of what Craig said, we would just really love some input on what we're doing, promote what we're doing to the community, help us get more kids involved in what we do, and also support our fundraising events and activities. It's a little bit different from the CCE side of things, where we tend to fundraise multiple times throughout the year with an emphasis on the Tractor Supply Paper Clover campaign that they do. We like to piggyback off of that and you know, kind of double dip and promote ourselves while getting people to buy paper clovers, and it always ends up being a lot of fun. We always end up with crazy animals inside of Tractor Supply, so it just happens. And then along with that, you would also be in charge of approving any requests and motions brought forward at 4-H leaders meetings and help us make decisions when it comes to that.
Back to Tess. Sorry, Tess.
It's okay. I'm back. So next up is the Food for Thought program, and we received a grant through the Central New York Community Foundation for $35,000. And so this will be a series of dinner conversations about current and compelling topics that intersect with the work of farming with perceptions and knowledge of non-farmers. So these dinners will serve as a foundation for connecting farmers with non-farmers in the community and throughout the county to engage in dialogue aimed at building a greater understanding of farming. So the members of this advisory committee are anticipated to provide a variety of like input and things like that, including guidance and assistance with the following components. The community interest survey, which actually has already been completed, so you're off the hook on that one, guys. A discussion topic selection. So these are for the dinners, the different topics that we'll be discussing. And these are guided somewhat by the survey results and also from what all of you have to offer. We will be looking for you to help with outreach to secure participants, both people attending and also for speakers. We are looking for you to participate in at least one of the dinners. I feel like we're offering food, so you'll probably be there, right? And then also to have discussions and debrief on the project after that's all over with. So this advisory committee is not intended to be a super high level of commitment. Most of the meetings will be web-based, so Zoom calls, emails, and possibly 1 to 2 in-person meetings over the grant period. We have been in talks trying to figure out exactly the deadline of the grant because of COVID. So I'm looking at November through June to be the months that I will be hitting you all the hardest with questions and asking for help for that advisory committee.
Thank you, Tess. This is Myron again, and I'll be talking a little bit about our project advisory, Ag Entrepreneurship and Business Center. So wonderfully enough, we received $36,333 from the Chobani Community Impact Fund through the Community Foundation for South Central New York. And the goal of that was to provide a center for farmers to grow their businesses, start their businesses, receive guidance and input and assistance. And in addition to that, we would be doing some other programming that I'll talk to you about in just a minute. But for a moment, if you've ever been in our building, I want you to think about if you've been downstairs to the big conference room and have ever looked across the hall to the empty rooms that we have there, and think about that as a space that is specifically for people in agriculture. We're going to have high-speed internet. We'll have a studio where they can record videos, can take pictures of their products. We're going to have access to computers. So when they come in, they can start their business, expand their business, learn how to finance their business, learn how to write and submit grants. There's so many different things that we can include in that center. So for that reason, and wonderfully enough, we've got quite a few of our volunteers here from that committee, members will provide input, guidance, and assistance with the following components. So needs survey development and distribution, and we're almost done with the needs survey. What I should bring up with us is we just this morning had a new intern come in for 12 weeks. She's from Dartmouth University and is from Oneida, decided to take the fall semester off. She will be helping us with quite a bit to do with the survey of this program, identification of key participants and project stakeholders. And this is a really big one for us, identification of the hardware, software, and training platforms and programs. So we're bringing in people who have, and I believe Carolyn's on, so I'm going to pick on her for a minute, but we are bringing in people who work with students who are starting businesses, in the case of her at Thought into Action at Colgate. We're bringing in people like Jason Ziebach, who is an associate provost for Morrisville State College, to talk about what the college students need when they're trying to start up businesses. But we're also bringing in people who have started their own businesses or expanded their businesses, people with backgrounds in growing and starting businesses. So we do have quite a few members of that committee right now, but we are looking to grow that by a few additional people. And then for programming and equipment, what was really exciting through Open Farm Day this year, even though we couldn't do it in person, was that Price Chopper funded us to purchase a whole bunch of new photography and video equipment. So that will become available for our farmers in that studio to use. And then we have an additional $3,000 that's going to go towards that pitch program so that we can provide substantial funding for those farmers who win that competition. Thank you all very much, and I look forward to working with everyone on the committee.
Great, thank you all for doing a quick overview and recap. We're just about out of time, and we're going to wrap it up here with just a reminder about who we are in CC Madison County, and I think you can hear that from the key projects that we have going on locally. We are very much a rural community, very much proud of our beautiful landscape, our farms, the importance of farming in our community. And we have a video that CCE produced that I think really brings that home. So Myron, if you can play that next.
While everyone's been talking about reopening, here's the thing.
New York's farms never closed.
Over these past few tumultuous months, one thing hasn't changed.
Our farmers' tireless work to plant, grow, produce,
cultivate, feed, and nourish
your neighbors,
your communities, and families all across New York and America.
While much of our farmers' work is done without fanfare and they never seek recognition, know that we see you.
And we want to say thank you.
Thank you for keeping us safe,
for keeping us fed,
for all the long days and nights,
and the sacrifices that you've made in these uncertain times.
You are essential.
You are vital,
and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
So our farmers are essential, and COVID certainly re-emphasized that and reminded, I hope, everyone about the essential nature of our work and of agriculture, and really the essential nature of these committees, you providing input and a voice to the services, the opportunities for us to continue to do just, really high impact, high valued work. We are just so excited about you joining us. So what's next? Well, the committee meetings will launch pretty quickly after this. So you'll be hearing from the program and project leads pretty quickly to start getting a sense of opportunities, days, and times to meet. So you can be looking forward to that. And then we wanted to give you just a couple upcoming save the dates. The National Farmer Appreciation Day is October 12th, and we'll be pushing out a sale of our Mad for Ag t-shirts and bumper stickers to show support, so you can watch for that. Our annual meeting will be via Zoom on October 22nd, so you get an invitation. And then we've decided to do something fun because we've also snagged another great student intern to help us with this. And I see I have an extra E there, I think. We're gonna do a Movember movement challenge throughout November as another fun fundraiser and a reminder to get some extra steps in before the holidays hit. So with that, we very much want to thank you for your time. We hope that this was helpful in providing an overview about what CCE is, its connection to Extension, how our regional team fits in, how National 4-H fits in, and then what our local scope of work is. I know we are just about or at our 7:30 time frame. We will certainly stick on for any questions that you might have. But if you need to sign off, and again, we know that time is precious, feel free to shoot us some questions here